Kia ora, Kelly Hodgins. Hello.
Hi.
Hi, and I'm also joined today by interpreter Scott Hamilton. Welcome, Scott. We are talking about the intricacies of translating music into sign language, and you're going to be doing that on stage at the Civic for West Side Story. So where do we start with something like this? What's the starting point for you?
The starting point. Well, once the contract has been signed and everyone agrees to take us on board, we start by receiving the script, and we do things like character allocation. But even before that, we kind of really just try to see what's going on, just really get a good run through of the script. We do a read through so that we know what the characters are like and things like that, and then character allocation, and then we sort of getting into the translation process.
So you actually get allocated a character. Who are you going to be translating on stage for?
Multiple characters.
Right.
So there's two interpreters.
Okay.
We either work as a solo interpreter or we'll have two of us. That's normally how we do it in New Zealand. It's a little bit different internationally. Sometimes I have 3 to 4 interpreters. But we've just found our deaf community prefers either 1 or 2 interpreters.
Why is that?
I don't know, different deaf communities have different needs, and I think our community just feels like sometimes it's a little bit too much going on and they miss out what's happening on the stage if they're just constantly watching the interpreters all the time. So...
Okay, so you're given the script, and then do you go and listen to recordings of the music, or where to from there?
Yep. So generally what we do if we're working with an organisation like Auckland Live, who are absolutely amazing at giving us everything possible that we need, they will get an actual video of the production, say where it's been before. So the one that we've got at the moment is from Singapore, so it will be slightly different. So when you're watching it on a video compared to live, because we go and we watch in the sound booth as well, you find that the timing is slightly different. So we use a video and we also use a script, and then we also go and watch it live as well.
Nuances, they can be lost sometimes, can't they? So how do you translate those into sign language?
With great difficulty. It's about actually physically going and studying the characters, and we do what's called characterization. So some of my characters, once I've learnt we're like actors in a way. We have to memorise, but a little bit more so. We are having to do a whole lot of other things to get across so that the deaf community get the same equivalence as the rest of the audience who can hear. So we sort of will do things where we will make it really clear that, so I'll know before another character takes a breath, I'll know that my next line that's coming, I'll prepare already, and my stance will change perhaps to indicate now I'm this character. And also we do what's called role shifting.
Okay. And what does that involve?
Role shifting. That's why we have really experienced interpreters going on the stage, because new grads and younger interpreters just haven't got the grasp of it yet. It's not a natural thing for us people who can hear to be able to sort of take on different characters physically. So role shifting requires a turning of the head to indicate, say, for example, you go left to indicate a girl, or if you're a girl and a boy, you'd indicate left for this character and then right for the other character. When it gets really tricky is if you're doing it by yourself and you have 4 or 5 characters at the same time talking to one another.
How do you do that?
Well, it's impossible to do things simultaneously. Yes. So what you have to do is you have to pick and choose almost like themes. And who's the most, who in that moment is the most poignant character? What message is the director trying to get across to the audience? So you have to do a little bit of filtering. And sometimes what we'll do is we'll actually join lines up. So if 2 characters are sort of stating the same thing and supporting one another, we might join those lines up so it becomes one character's lines. Stuff like that.
Let's talk about the music. It's not West Side Story is not easy, let's face it. It's difficult music. What's the biggest challenge in translating this music into sign language?
Firstly, I don't think West Side Story is that difficult.
Oh, okay, great. Good to know.
I think my Everest was Cats,
right?
Because it was nonsensical. So I had the dictionary out every like 5 minutes going, oh my goodness, what does that word mean? And I think, to be honest, in that performance, I think the deaf community actually understood more of it than what the rest of the audience did. West Side Story I like in terms of the fact that it's got a lot of imagery that we have signs for. So, for example, in the song America, she talks about going back to Puerto Rico and they talk about the flowers blooming. And so we have signs for things like that. So it makes it easier. I think the difficulty with interpreting for musicals is that music has layers.
Yes.
So you've got the layers of the actual instruments and the beat and the bass, and then you've also got the lyrics sitting on top of it, and it is virtually impossible to do that simultaneously. As people who can hear, we can hear all of that at the same time, but you can't actually access that with your eyes. If you tried to do that, you'd have to have multiple interpreters all sort of doing different things, and it just becomes a visual mess. So you kind of have to pick and choose, and I try and show the various levels throughout the interpretation of that particular song.
So how do you do that?
I suppose it comes down to my own personal preference as to what I'm kind of giving across to the audience. Mm-hmm. What I try and do is I try and keep the lyrics in my hands, so the actual physical signs, the beat in my body, and then all of the kind of the rest of it, so like the voice intonation, everything all sits on our face in sign language. Mm-hmm. They're called non-manual markers, so they give more. So yeah, that's what I try and do.
I'm speaking with Kelly Hodgins and also our translator Scott Hamilton. We are talking about translating music into sign language, and she's going to be doing that on the Civic for West Side Story. How did you get into doing this?
Do you mean sign language interpreting in general, or the musical side of it?
The musical side of it.
The musical side of it. Well, I kind of grew up on the stage. I did ballet for many, many years, and I did amateur drama productions as a kid for years. And then I was working at the Deaf School, Kelston Deaf Education Centre, and Tim Bray rung the Deaf Education Centre and said, I've got professional children's productions that I put on at the Pump House in Takapuna. Do you have anyone who can do performance interpreting? And I kind of dabbled in it before I trained as an interpreter, so I wasn't really doing the right thing. I was doing what I thought was okay, and trained to be an interpreter. And then he rang up and they said, we think Kelly would be quite a good fit for you. And so I started with him in 2004 and sort of just built my way up and did that for quite a long time. And then in 2011 was when I did my first big musical, which was Wicked at the Civic.
Wow, that would have been quite a thrill.
That was another Everest. I did that one by myself.
Wow.
Yeah. We'd had a couple of hiccups prior to that. We'd tried qualified interpreters on the stage, but we hadn't kind of grasped the difference between platform interpreting and interpreting on the stage for a musical or a theatrical production. It's very different. It's not like live interpreting. You actually can't interpret live, so you have no lag time. There's no delay. You have to preempt things. You have to be on a beat. You have to be turning your head to guide the audience to something happening on the stage. And so we kind of didn't really know. And then the deaf community came along, and they felt like it was just a bit of everything was going everywhere, and we were trying to sign everything, and we were trying to do the best that we possibly could, but we just weren't aware. And then when we did Wicked, it was pretty much a trial run to see what it would look like with one interpreter, trialling the stuff that we'd learnt internationally from just reading articles and things like that. So yeah.
How important is it to have interpreters like you on stage?
Really important. I think we take it for granted as people who can hear that, we can just access, public events and also events that you go and pay for. Mm-hmm. Going to the theatre, I like to think of it as like sometimes it actually really affects your well-being. I think it's somewhere where you can just go and lose yourself for that moment that you're there, and the deaf community don't necessarily always have access to that, and I think that's quite sad. And now that we've been able to provide it, we're finding that the numbers are increasing more and more because they're just getting lost in it in the world as well. So yeah.
You said that you can sign lots of different types of music and that you have. So tell me about the different types of music that you've signed or that you can sign. So musical theatre, we've got that tick.
Yep.
What about opera? What's the challenges with something like opera?
Yeah, I did Phantom of the Opera. That was interesting. Challenges with opera. You have to know it inside out, because if you don't know it inside out, so like if, say for example, if I went to a Civic event and I was booked as an interpreter on that night and they gave me no prep and someone stood up and sung an operatic song, I don't know if I could interpret it that well. I could probably fluff it a little bit and say he's talking about a river and he's talking about trees over here and the sun shining, but I couldn't do a really good interpretation because half the time you can't actually understand what's being sung.
Yeah, Italian, German, it's got to be hard, isn't it, translating that then into English, into sign language. Has its challenges.
Very much so.
Yeah. What about pop music? How does translating pop music differ from translating something like West Side Story?
Pop music. Oh, a lot of more colloquial signs.
Yeah.
And I find that you got to be clever with them, because sometimes what they'll do is really, really repetitive. You know, like a lot of songs, they'll just sing the same line over and over and over and over again. Well, for the deaf community, it's like, really? That's just, you know. So you kind of have to be a bit creative and like, well, that means, you know, and try and get all these synonyms out, you know, but still showing the repetitiveness of it as well. Yeah.
Metal is a difficult genre to learn as well, isn't it? Have you signed at any metal gigs?
I probably have signed them at an event where I wasn't prepared, but it's not. I don't think we've ever had an event where we've actually been paid as interpreters to go and do a music event. I don't think it's ever happened in New Zealand as far as I'm concerned.
It's definitely growing in popularity. There is some viral videos at the moment going around, I think, with Wu-Tang Clan being one of them. Incredible. There's a lot happening. We were talking earlier off air, we were talking about metal and about the signs that we use with metal. So can you show me, making sure that we don't do this wrong, so when we want to rock, what are our signs that we do for rock?
Okay, so you put the middle two fingers get hooked by your thumb, and then your index finger and your pinky get stuck up in the air. Yeah. And depending on, so you can inflict signs depending on how, like the degree of intensity of the sign. So if you just want to go, I'm rocking it out, you know, like I'm kind of cruisy, or you can go, really getting it out there.
Rock.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because if you hold it the wrong way, then it means something different, doesn't it?
Well, if you put it up near your head, yes, it's demon, demonic,
demon.
Devil. Yeah.
Right. So rock and demon.
The deaf community is so thankful that I've taught you that side of all the sides I could teach you.
Well, come on then, teach us a few others that might be important to us in the musical world. What's something else?
What else might be important? Probably the same for access.
Yeah. Okay. Access.
Yeah. Access.
Okay.
Music would be a good sign to learn.
Yeah.
Okay, so index finger, and it just sort of goes like this.
Oh, no, like you're conducting.
Yeah, like conducting, that's right.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Or you can do it like that as well.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Music. Yeah. Cool. So it's like you're conducting for those who are listening on radio instead of watching us. Sign language in the arts is relevant though, and it's getting more and more prevalent. Where do you think that this is going to go in the future?
I think we will go to doing things like big music concerts, like what they've got in America. They've got interpreters that get booked and they tour with, you know. So, like, for example, we've got Ed Sheeran coming, you know. I mean, oh, my goodness, jolly. I wish that man. I mean, you know, I've got redheads in my family, Ed. You know, come on. I'm biased towards redheads. Get an interpreter there, you know. Things like that, I think, is what we're doing in the future. But I think we've got a long way to go. It's not something where you can, it's just not a warm body that you can put up on a stage. It takes years of developing those skills to then get up there and do a really good job, you know?
Yeah, years and years and years of practice and listening and interpretation.
Yes.
Well, Kelly Hodgins, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to seeing you translate some music for us.
Oh, thank you. I'll do my best, hopefully. Try. Thank you.